We are told from childhood that honesty builds trust, kindness brings love, and sacrifice earns loyalty. But when you look at the real world, you see a very different story. Honest people are often silenced, kind people are taken advantage of, and those who sacrifice the most are usually left with nothing in return. Why does this happen? Because goodness without wisdom is not protection, it's exposure. Blind goodness is like leaving your doors unlocked in a city full of thieves. It doesn't keep you safe, it invites danger. History proves this again and again. Great leaders who trusted too much were betrayed. Kind rulers who gave endlessly were destroyed by the very people they helped. Generous souls who refused to set limits were consumed until nothing was left of them. Goodness in its purest form is beautiful. But without strategy, it becomes self-destructive. The harsh truth is this: people respect strength more than they respect kindness. They admire goodness only when it is backed by power. Without power, your goodness is treated as weakness, your sacrifices as obligations, and your honesty as naivety. This doesn't mean you should become cruel, manipulative, or heartless. It means you must learn how to use your goodness with precision. Just like a sword, virtue must be sharp, controlled, and used at the right time. Otherwise, it becomes a burden you carry instead of a weapon you command. In the next few minutes, you will discover why blind goodness fails, why it makes you vulnerable, and, most importantly, how to transform it into a source of strength, respect, and lasting impact. Goodness is a virtue, but blind goodness is a trap. When you are good without awareness, you become predictable. People know you will always forgive, always help, and always say yes. Instead of earning respect, you invite exploitation. Think of the person who cannot say no. Everyone calls them kind, but deep down, no one respects them. Why? Because their kindness is not a choice, it is a compulsion. They give because they cannot refuse. And anything that comes without limits loses value. Blind goodness also creates imbalance. In relationships, when one person gives endlessly, the other takes endlessly. This cycle does not create love, it creates dependency. And when dependency grows, the giver is drained while the taker grows stronger. Eventually, the good person finds themselves empty, exhausted, and often abandoned. In society too, blind goodness is punished. A leader who forgives every betrayal is not seen as noble, they are seen as weak. An employee who accepts unfair treatment is not rewarded for patience, they are overlooked. In every corner of life, blind goodness sets you up to lose. The truth is, goodness must be conscious. It must come with choice, not compulsion. A strong person is kind because they decide to be kind, not because they are incapable of anything else. A strong person forgives when forgiveness has meaning, not when it allows the cycle of abuse to continue. Without this awareness, goodness destroys you from within. It erodes your self-respect, weakens your position, and makes you invisible in a world that rewards strength. Blind goodness is not virtue, it is self-betrayal. The first step to transformation, then, is awareness, to see where your kindness has become weakness, where your giving has become exploitation, and where your honesty has turned against you. On the surface, goodness looks like protection. People believe that if they are kind, honest, and giving, then others will treat them fairly in return. But in reality, goodness often exposes your weak spots. It signals to the world that you can be approached, persuaded, or even manipulated without resistance. Think about it, when someone is known for always helping, they become the first person everyone runs to, not out of love, but out of convenience. Their goodness makes them easy targets. The same is true for honesty. The person who always speaks openly reveals too much, giving others the tools to use against them. And the one who sacrifices endlessly teaches others that their time, effort, and energy can be taken without question. This is why goodness without limits is dangerous. It tells others where your defenses are thin. Just as a soldier would never walk into battle without armor, you cannot walk through life with goodness alone. Without strength, it leaves you wide open. History and human behavior confirm this. Nations that trusted blindly were invaded. Leaders who showed mercy without caution were overthrown. Individuals who sacrificed endlessly were forgotten when they were no longer useful. Goodness, in these cases, did not protect, it exposed. Even in personal life, the same pattern repeats. The friend who always says yes is rarely respected. The partner who forgives everything is eventually taken for granted. The employee who accepts unfair treatment is exploited until they break. People don't consciously plan to abuse such goodness, but human nature takes advantage of whatever is easily available. The problem is not goodness itself, but the absence of boundaries around it. Without balance, goodness is like an unlocked door, it invites anyone to enter, even those who intend harm. To survive, your goodness must be guarded by strength. This does not mean becoming cold or unkind. It means being selective. Choosing who deserves your kindness. Choosing when to sacrifice. Choosing how much truth to reveal. When your goodness is paired with awareness, it becomes power. But when it stands alone, it leaves you exposed and vulnerable to the harshness of the world. The lesson is simple: goodness without protection is weakness. If you want your virtues to matter, they must be shielded by strength, guided by wisdom, and defined by boundaries. Only then will your goodness be respected instead of exploited. Sacrifice is often glorified as the highest form of goodness. We are told that giving everything for others will earn us respect, love, and loyalty. But in reality, endless sacrifice rarely creates gratitude. Instead, it creates expectation. The more you give, the more people assume you will continue giving. Your sacrifices stop being seen as acts of love and start being treated as obligations. The tragedy is that people rarely appreciate what costs you the most. They become accustomed to it, even entitled to it. Think of the parent who sacrifices everything for their children, only to grow old and realize their efforts are barely acknowledged. Or the employee who gives up personal time, health, and peace for their company, only to be replaced when convenient. Endless sacrifice rarely brings honor, it often brings neglect. Psychology reveals why. Human beings adapt quickly to what they receive. When you give once, it feels extraordinary. When you give repeatedly, it becomes normal. And when you give endlessly, it is no longer seen as a gift, it is seen as the baseline of who you are. People don't thank you for it, they expect it. Sacrifice without balance also erodes self-respect. The person who always puts others first begins to lose their own identity. They forget what they want, what they need, and what they deserve. Eventually, they become invisible, even to themselves. This does not mean sacrifice has no place. True sacrifice, given wisely and for worthy causes, is powerful. It can inspire others, build deep bonds, and create meaning. But endless sacrifice without wisdom destroys both the giver and the gift. The lesson is simple: your sacrifices must have boundaries. They must be offered where they will be valued, not wasted. You must learn to ask, is this sacrifice building something greater, or is it simply feeding someone else's endless hunger? Sacrifice should be a conscious act of strength, not a habit of self-destruction. Only then does it carry meaning, only then does it earn respect, and only then does it become a source of true power. Honesty is one of the most celebrated virtues. We are taught that truth always wins, that honesty builds trust, and that speaking your mind is the mark of integrity. But honesty, when used without wisdom, can cause more harm than good. Raw honesty can be like a blade, sharp, unfiltered, and destructive. When you speak truth without timing, without strategy, and without empathy, it does not enlighten others, it wounds them. Instead of respect, it creates resentment. Think of the person who tells it like it is. They may pride themselves on being brutally honest, but often their words leave scars. People avoid them, not because the truth is false, but because the way it was delivered lacked wisdom. Honesty without wisdom turns truth into a weapon that destroys trust instead of building it. History shows this clearly. Leaders who spoke truths without caution were silenced or betrayed. Thinkers who revealed too much, too quickly, were punished rather than honored. In personal life too, raw honesty can break relationships. Sometimes, the truth spoken at the wrong time is more damaging than a lie. Wisdom gives honesty its power. It teaches you when to speak, how to speak, and to whom to speak. A wise person knows that not every truth needs to be said, and not every truth needs to be said immediately. They understand that honesty is not about dumping facts, it is about guiding people toward clarity without destroying them in the process. Honesty without wisdom also makes you vulnerable. When you reveal too much of yourself, you give others the tools to use against you. Sharing every thought, every weakness, every secret in the name of honesty is not virtue, it is self-exposure. The real strength lies in measured honesty, truth wrapped in compassion, timing, and strategy. Such honesty builds trust, strengthens relationships, and inspires respect. But stripped of wisdom, honesty loses its beauty and becomes a liability. The lesson is clear: be honest, but be wise. Truth is powerful only when it is guided by wisdom. Without it, honesty does not protect you, it destroys you. Human beings admire kindness in words, but in practice, they bow to strength. This is one of the most uncomfortable truths about human nature. People may celebrate compassion in stories, movies, and speeches, but when faced with real choices, they prioritize power over goodness. History proves this again and again. Nations follow leaders who project strength, not those who appear endlessly merciful. In personal life too, people respect those who set limits, demand fair treatment, and carry themselves with confidence. Without strength, kindness is not respected, it is exploited. Psychology explains this through the principle of dominance. In every social group, from animals to humans, hierarchies form naturally. Those who display authority and control are treated as leaders, while those who are overly submissive are overlooked. This doesn't mean kindness has no place, but it means kindness alone cannot place you higher in the hierarchy. Think of the workplace. The employee who is kind but passive rarely gets promoted. The one who asserts boundaries, negotiates for fairness, and refuses exploitation gains respect, even if they are less likable. Consider relationships too. A person who is endlessly giving, forgiving, and agreeable is often taken for granted. Their partner may enjoy the benefits but feels little respect. On the other hand, a partner who demands mutual respect, communicates limits, and is willing to walk away if mistreated earns both love and respect. It is strength that sustains kindness, not the other way around. The world also measures strength not only in physical or financial terms, but also in psychological and emotional resilience. A kind person who cannot endure hardship, defend themselves, or handle confrontation is admired in theory but ignored in practice. People naturally gravitate toward those who project stability, courage, and discipline, qualities associated with strength. The lesson here is not to abandon kindness, but to elevate it with strength. Imagine kindness as a soft light. Without strength, it is easily extinguished. With strength, it becomes a steady flame that guides others. If you want your kindness to matter in this world, make sure it is wrapped in strength. Otherwise, it will be invisible. The world respects kindness only after it respects your strength. So far, we've seen how blind goodness weakens you, how endless sacrifice drains you, and how honesty without wisdom backfires. But the ultimate goal is not to reject goodness, it is to transform it into power. True mastery comes when your kindness, honesty, and sacrifices stop being liabilities and start becoming weapons of influence. How is this transformation achieved? Through awareness, discipline, and boundaries. The first step is awareness. You must recognize where your goodness is being exploited. Are you giving more than you receive? Are you sacrificing without recognition? Are you speaking truths that are only hurting you? Awareness allows you to see where your virtues are being used against you. The second step is discipline. This means controlling your instinct to always say yes, to always forgive, and to always give without hesitation. Discipline allows you to hold back when necessary, to choose where your goodness is directed, and to save your energy for people and causes that truly matter. Without discipline, goodness spills everywhere and loses its impact. The third step is boundaries. Boundaries are the bridge between goodness and power. They protect you from exploitation and signal to others that your kindness is intentional, not automatic. For example, when you give time to someone, let them know it is a gift, not an obligation. When you sacrifice, make sure it is for people who have earned your loyalty. When you speak honestly, do it in a way that teaches rather than wounds. Boundaries transform your virtues into tools that elevate you instead of weakening you. Ultimately, transforming goodness into power means living with balance. You remain kind, but you are not blind. You sacrifice, but only with wisdom. You speak truth, but with strategy. You are both compassionate and unshakably strong. And when people see this balance, they no longer treat your goodness as weakness, they treat it as leadership. The world remembers those who combine goodness with power. Alone, each is fragile. Together, they become unstoppable. Your task is not to abandon your goodness, but to forge it into a form that commands respect, creates influence, and leaves a legacy that cannot be ignored. Life teaches us the same lesson again and again, but most people refuse to see it. They cling to the illusion that goodness alone is enough, that honesty, sacrifice, and kindness will somehow shield them from betrayal, exploitation, and pain. But the truth is merciless. Goodness without wisdom is a weakness, and weakness is never respected. Look at history. Look at society. Look at your own life. The patterns are everywhere. The honest are silenced. The kind are exploited. The ones who give endlessly are left empty. And the ones who survive, the ones who are remembered, are those who learn to balance goodness with strength. This is the hidden law of life. The world does not reward blind virtue. It rewards wise virtue. Kindness that knows its limits. Honesty that knows its timing. Sacrifice that knows its worth. Strength is the shield that protects your goodness, and without it, your virtues are just open doors for others to walk through and take what they want. But here is the hopeful part: you are not powerless. You do not need to abandon your goodness to survive. You only need to sharpen it. Think of your virtues as a sword. Left dull, it is heavy and useless. Sharpened with wisdom, it becomes a weapon that protects you and inspires others. When people see that your kindness is deliberate, your honesty is strategic, and your sacrifices are intentional, they respect you. They know they cannot exploit you, they can only admire you. The transformation begins with awareness. Notice where your goodness drains you instead of empowering you. Then comes discipline, the courage to stop saying yes to everything and everyone. And finally, boundaries, the invisible walls that preserve your energy and direct your virtues where they matter most. These three elements turn your goodness into power. Once you master them, you stop being a victim of your virtues and start being a leader because of them. So remember this, the world does not need you to abandon kindness. It needs you to embody powerful kindness. It does not need you to stop sacrificing, it needs you to sacrifice wisely. It does not need you to hide your honesty, it needs you to speak truth with wisdom. Goodness is not the end goal. It is the beginning. But only when fused with strength does it become unshakable, unforgettable, and truly transformative. At the end of your life, you will not be remembered simply for being good. You will be remembered for being good in a way that was strong enough to survive, to inspire, and to change the people around you. That is the path to respect, to legacy, and to true strength.